All right, so let's dive into some component usage. I wanted to put together a quick header in here. This is just Tailwind UI header. Just grabbed it right off their website, dropped it in, cleaned it up so that everything looks good inside of here. If I open it up, you can see it's just HTML, a couple SVGs, things like that. And what I want to do is I actually want to take this and create a dynamic header with a static override, which is similar to Quickly if you're a Quickly user, or Craft Builder, I think, has the option. And probably the most infamous one is Webflow. You can just statically override specific components and trickle down dynamic data. It's something that's kind of missing from every builder. And there's a lot of reasons why. It's kind of a convoluted thing. But in this case, you have the ability to do dynamic data and static overrides, trickling down into multi-tier components. And I'll explain exactly what that is if it sounds kind of complicated. So normally in LC, you'd have to, when you want to save a block, you have to declare it as a block. So you have to add like a class LC block, and then you save it, and then you have to find the block and essentially insert it into the page. It's a lot of clicks to accomplish something that can be relatively simple. So I wanted to give you an example of how this works inside this new system, and this is just the first version of it. So right here, I have my component, and I'm just going to go ahead and save it as dynamic header. And there we go. We have now saved it. Inside this header, just to show you inside the code right here, I do have a template tag for headline, which will go right here in the template. Right now, you can see there's nothing there. It just has this line, but it doesn't have the, it has a static line right here, but it doesn't have the actual title before it. And I'll show you exactly how that works in just a second. So first off, I'm just going to delete it. So we just deleted the whole header, and I'm going to call it back in. So I wanted to do this without having to open sidebars and insert things and do all kinds of randomness. And the way that you just do it is I just type in the name of the component, and we have it now. Now you might think like, it's a short code. How am I going to pass down data, directly from here into it? Well, with Twig, it's really simple. So in this specific case, since I named the variable headline, I can just actually set a variable headline equals, this is my custom headline. And now you can see that the data is now populating right here. It says this is my headline, and everything's working as you would expect. So if you had some type of logic that you wanted to happen to decide what the headline is, like let's say a different headline for specific pages or a different promotion or call to action, you could actually pass and trickle this down into different parts of the page to allow you to really change and modify how the page lays out based on what the user is doing. And of course, this is the server-side implementation of it, but it's really simple to do. The other thing is that it doesn't have to be a static variable like I have it here. For example, I could change this over into post title. And now it says header because I'm on the header template. If I were to go over here and populate content, let's say single post and hello world, and apply it, now it says hello world because that's the title for that specific page. Clear it out. This kind of gives you a way to create really clean template tags. So headline versus having like post.meta headline, things like that. You can really decide what they are and override them as you need. This gives your components a lot more versatility when using them in different places of the site. And it works a lot more like a real development workflow. If you've ever used something like Astro, Next.js, or React, if you're a developer, you're probably very familiar with passing props down into your components. This is the same process. You're passing the props down into the children. So even if this shortcode had other shortcodes inside of it, it would still be able to inherit the data being passed down, giving you a really multi-dimensional way to keep your components clean and keep them organized so that you're only editing components on a global basis rather than on a per-page basis, giving you a lot more organization, maintainability for your site, and it really just helps improve the workflow. And anything can be passed in here. So like you could easily have gone through and started to, like, for example, I want to set a logo, I want to set the next thing. You can do all your different sets and variables, and it's a lot like creating your override options inside Webflow or Quickly. If you used either of them, you had to create the options and then connect them to the field. This is the same thing without all the BS. Like essentially, you're just creating custom fields that live on the server side only, but not in the database that are available to the page. Lots of cool things you can do with this. Of course, if you're just using traditional ACF and you're just passing in dynamic data, or you're passing in like globals, like for example, I want to pass the site title. I want to use that to decide what my header is. I can do headline equals site.title. And now it has the site title that's declared inside of the actual WordPress admin inside of settings. So if I were to go in here and change this to something else, and I were to go back into my template here and just refresh the preview, it's going to say something else. And just like that, you have a globally dynamic thing that works for ACF option fields, ACF fields, all global scope variables, as well as your static overrides like I showed you earlier. So pretty comprehensive way to handle components. Thinking about ideas of how to potentially create a client interface around static overrides to help your client be able to manage the data. If that's something that you guys would think is valuable. I know that my next project after working on some builder tweaks and getting this out is to put together a client editor specifically for users, for the client to manage. I know for me in the last year, I've had requests for Gutenberg and different builders, but no matter what, editors find it difficult to edit content inside WordPress, and ACF seems to be the most tried and true way to handle it. I think that there could be a better solution, and that's one of the next things I plan on working on after this project. So anyways, I'm looking at all the options. I'd love to hear community feedback on it. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out.